ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we'll continue from where we left. This is the second chapter of the second canto, sloka number 4 onwards. Satyam shithau kim kashipo prayasair baho swasiddhehi upabarhanaikim satyanjalau kim purudanna patrya digvalka ladho sati kim dukulehi. Sorry. Okay. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? No, when one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skin of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? So here it's talking about, as we were discussing, it is it is a system of the renounced order wherein the people would go to the like forest to meditate upon the Supreme Lord. So that's the vritti that has been talked about here, and this will be somewhat like this. So here it is mentioned, if you see, all the natural things, if a man wants to survive, he can just survive on the natural entities. A renunciant who goes to the forest to perform tapasya, so he adopts this kind of a lifestyle, right? So where there are ample flats to lie on, so what is the necessity of cot and beds? So that means he can lie down on any surface, any garden or any forest surface or something like that. And then one can use his own arms. Then what is the necessity of pillow? So he can just fold his arms and keep it underneath his head. And then when one can use his palms of his hand, what is the necessity of utensils? So he can just take bhiksha from somewhere, and then whatever fits in his palm, he can just have it, right? So there is one rishi, his name is Karabhajana Muni. So Karabhajana means like he would take only as much as it comes in his hand. That's all. Like, no, he would not take anything more than that. So, and then when there is ample covering or skins of trees, tree barks and things like that, so then what is the necessity of clothing? So this is the life of a man who's who's in the renounced like this one, and he goes to the forest to meditate. So he cannot take a baggage of things. Okay, I will now I'm going to meditate for a long time in the forest, so I'll take some necessities and things like that. No, he has to go empty handed. No, that's when the tapasya is proper, actually. So such a person's such a vritti is discussed now. So meditating on the form of the Lord in the in the forest, a sadhu is going to the forest and meditating. Okay, purport. The necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without any pillow and make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity for searching after a pillow. If we make um, study of the general life of animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia, and yet they maintain a healthy life by lying down on the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet still they live healthy lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should not try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry and philosophy. Uh, Man should try to utilize, okay, sorry. Man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of human civilization. But here, the idea given by Srila Sukadeva Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than human. One must realize the uh, nullity of material phenomenon. Hmm, Nullity means an act or thing that is legally void, the state of being legally void. Okay. So nullity of material phenomenon means, like, at the end of all material activities, what remains is null. What remains is like no empty. This one. One must realize the nullity of it, material phenomenon, considering it a passing phantasmagoria. So phantasmagoria, I explained last time itself. Phantasmagoria means something that's like illusory thing. Sometimes money created by a magic wand, or something that is illusion. No, that's called phantasmagoria. So should be considered as passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. No, that's a very important thing. We should not go behind the material things too much, because anyways we are going to leave that and go off, right? Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization, geared to sense gratification, is delusion, and such a civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in a palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities of life. They used to live in huts and grooves and sit on the flat ground, and yet they have left immense treasure of high knowledge with all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind them immense writings on transcendental knowledge while residing only for one night underneath one tree. Means Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. So they were great pundits. They have given a lot of wonderful literatures for guiding us in the path of bhakti. So they were ministers before, but then they gave up the ministerial post, and then they went to Vrindavan just to reside in the holy dham and to execute the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had ordered them that you write the bhakti literatures, so that people can understand the scriptures in a proper way. So then they dedicated their life for that, and then they would not even stay underneath one tree for more than a day. You know why? Because they may get attached to that particular tree, right? So they didn't want to even get attached to an open tree, so they would sleep in underneath different trees on different days. So that's how renounced they were. But then they left behind such wonderful transcendental knowledge. We have many books written by them. Main few main things are like Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, and then this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and many wonderful books they have left behind us, so that we could take advantage and move forward in our Krishna consciousness. Okay. So they did not live even 2 nights under the same tree, and what to speak of well furnished rooms with modern amenities, and still they were able to give us most important literature of self realization. So called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization. Rather, they are detrimental to such progressive life. In the system of Sanatana Dharma, of four divisions of social life and four orders of progressive realization, there are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life. And the sincere followers are advised therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to abiding by the life of renunciation and self abnegation from the beginning, one should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life, as recommended by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, and that will help one achieve the desired success. Okay, so Chirani kimpati na santi dishanti bhiksham naiva pagrihi pha parabhrita sarithopyashuyan ruddha guha kim ajito vatinopasannan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandan. Dhanadurmadandan. Dhana means wealth, durmada, and andan, no, like durmada, mada means like in this illusion or kind of madness. Durmada means like very bad kind of madness, and anda means like no, to be blinded by that kind of madness. So durmadandan means too intoxicated by, right? So anyways, let us see the translation. Are there no torn cloths lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to thirsty? Are the caves of mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord does not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Okay, so no, it's talking about the renounced order of life. They should never flatter anybody for any like okay, if I speak in a nice way, so these people may give me some donation or something like that. So in that way, I can live a life, better life and things like that. So that is not to be done for a person in the renounced order. The person in the renounced order, he should simply depend on the Supreme Lord, and then simply depend on natural things, right? So that's mentioned here. Purport: the renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to dictionary, a parasite is a psychopath who lives at the cost of the society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to the society and not depending on earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from householders by a bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for a tangible benefit of the donor. So it should not be like, the sadhu should not be too much eager for the donations of the people, but then this donating things to a sadhu, it is only for the benefit of the person who is donating, and the person who is accepting, he is just accepting as a matter of this one matter of doing benefit for the people in general. So because he doesn't have any attachment in his life, and whatever comes, he is just going to use it in service of the Lord, right? So that is the position of a sadhu, right? In the Sanatana Dharma institution, alms giving to the mendicant, giving to the mendicant is part of householders' duty, and it is advised in the scriptures that the householders should treat the mendicants as their family children and should provide them with food, clothing, etc., without being asked. Pseudo mendicants, therefore, should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of a person is the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of human being in order to give them realized directions towards self-realization. So the renounced order of life is meant for enlightening people, and they should just simply focus on that, and whatever needs are there, that will be fulfilled by the Lord, and if the culture is there, like even people, the other householders, they will also contribute towards such cause. Amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life of Srila Sanatana and Srila Rupa and other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunj Vrindavan the spot where Sri Radha Damodar temple was established by Srila Jiva Goswami, and where the actual Samadhi tomb of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind them immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not at living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should go to the householders for food. For such mendicants, asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Okay, should not go to the householders for food. No, for such mendicants, asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Sukadeva Goswami gave this warning especially for those mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. When a man becomes a mendicant willfully or by circumstance, he must be firm. He must be of firm faith and conviction that the Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living beings everywhere in the universe. Why then would he neglect the maintenance of a surrendered soul who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord? So sometimes it is mentioned that even the elephants and other animals are there in the forest. No, elephant eats tons and tons of food. So Lord is providing for the elephant. And if a person dedicates himself completely in the service of the Lord, will the Lord not take care of him? So he is the Lakshmipati. He is the greatest of all. No, definitely he will take care of his devotee. Right? A common master looks to the necessities of his servant. So how much more would the powerful, all opulent Supreme Lord look after the necessities of life for a fully surrendered soul? The general rule is that a mendicant devotee will accept a simple small loin cloth without asking anyone to give it in charity. He simply salvages it from the rejected torn cloth thrown in the street. When he is hungry, he may go to a magnanimous tree which drops fruits, and when he is thirsty, he may drink water from the flowing river. He does not require to live in a comfortable house, but should find a cave in the hill and not be afraid of jungle animals, keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. The Lord may dictate to tiger and other jungle animals not to disturb his devotee. Haridas Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, used to live in such a cave, and by chance a great venomous snake was a co-partner, okay, co-partner of the cave. So some admirers of Thakur Haridas who had to visit the Thakur every day feared the snake and suggested that the Thakur leave the place because his devotees were afraid of snake and they were regularly visiting the cave. Thakur Haridas agreed to the proposal on their account, but as soon as this was settled, the snake actually crawled out of its hole in the cave before everyone present and left the cave for good. By the dictation of the Lord, who lived also within the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas and decided to leave the place and not disturb him. So, this is a tangible example of how the Lord gives protection to a bona fide devotee like Thakur Haridas. According to the regulations of Sanatan Dharma institution, one is trained from the beginning to depend fully on the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. So this is a very important principle. Now, we may not be able to adopt the life of forest dwellers, so that may be difficult. But then this policy is very important to be dependent on the Lord. So that's a very, very important aspect. So there is 6 lakshanas of surrender that is there. Anukulya Sankalpa, Pratikulya Varjanam, Raksha Ishi iti Vishwasho, Gopaturto Aranam Tatha, Atmanikshepa Karpanya Sadvida Sharanagata. So these 6 symptoms have to manifest in a person who's completely taken shelter of the Lord. And only a person who has taken complete shelter of the Lord, he can go back to the spiritual world. So what is these symptoms? Anukulyasya Sankalpa. So whatever is favorable for devotional service, we should learn from the scriptures and the spiritual master, and we should adopt that in our life. And then Pratikulyasya Varjanam. So whatever is not favorable for devotional service, that should be given up. And then Rakshaishi iti Vishwasho. So the Lord will protect me in any situation. So a person should have complete faith in the Lord that no, he will protect me in any situation. So this is a culture. This has to be practiced. This is the sadhana that we have to do that we may not be able to completely depend on the Lord as of now, though the Lord is ready to give us protection. So we have to depend on we have to practice depending on the Lord, little by little, slowly, slowly, right? So that is the main thing that we have to do. So because at the point of death, so like if we are fully surrendered to the Lord, so fully surrendered means, we should have these 6 lakshanas. So then only a person is called fully surrendered. So at any situation, okay, Lord will protect me, Lord will take care of me. And whatever way he takes care of me, it is completely fine for me, right? So, Rakshayishiti Vishwasho, Gopatrito Tata. That means Lord is my maintainer and supplier. No, he is the one who is providing for me. I don't need to depend on anybody else. So if my job is providing me something, it is just a matter of choice, that's all. So if this job is not there, if this particular way of earning money is not there, the Lord will still maintain me in a different way, right? So that is never a case of that should never be a case of anxiety for a devotee. If something goes off, then he should say, okay, fine, the Lord may provide me in another way. Or if he doesn't provide me, like, it's okay, like, no, he wants me to leave the planet and go back to him, that's also okay. So whatever way he wants, like, no, I'm just ready to be there, and I will accept maintenance only from him, right? So that is a very important thing. And no, whenever I talk about this concept, I always remember Mother Sita. So when Hanuman went to Lanka, and then he did a lot of damage there, and finally, like, no, he also before that, like, he also met Sita, and he told Sita Devi that I can take you back. No, I am very, very powerful, I can take you back to the Lord Ram's place. So she rejected that proposal, saying that no, like, it will be a what is it, a bad name for my husband. So, like, no, it is proper for him to come and save me, and I don't think it is a proper thing for you to take me back. So in that way, like, no, she was getting life threatening signals and things like that from Ravana. But then she was very, very firm. No, if I have to be protected, I'll be protected by Lord Ram only, right? So that's a very important aspect, right? So in fact, in that, another angle was there, like, no, she was worried about the reputation of Lord Ram. So if he doesn't come and protect, so then it will not be very good for his name. So no, it is, if protection has to happen, so then only he has to do it. So then these kind of things, the many other combinations are there, but then it is exclusive shelter from the Lord, that if I want my maintenance, if I want my protection, I will depend only on the Lord, right? So that's a very important aspect of the surrender. So in this way, like, and then like, main aspects I just wanted to highlight was the aspect of the Lord will protect me in any situation, and no, he is my maintainer, he is my provider, right? So these two things, so when we understand these two things, we will become very, very peaceful in our life. No, any kind of reversals comes in our life, we will not be shaken. Okay, fine, like, no, Lord has some plan in this thing. So anyway, it is his job to maintain me. Like, why should I take so much of worry about? So my job is to render service to him, and his job is to maintain me, right? So that is the position, that is our position. So let me just do what is my job, and let Lord worry about his job. So why should I worry about the Lord's job of how to maintain me, right? So in this way, especially a renounced person, he tries to depend on these aspects more, and we should try to see that in our own lives, how we will develop these aspects. No, anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. So what is anukul and what is pratikul, like, we will know when we read the scriptures, and when we attend the classes also, like, we will get to know gradually. So those things, whatever we have read and heard, we should try to practice and follow. And then we Hare Krishna. So we should try to practice and follow. And then whatever this faith aspect of the Lord will protect me in any situation, and Lord is my maintainer. So these aspects are very, very important. And then last two are Atmanikshepa and Karpanya, maintaining a mood of humility, and then offering everything that we have in the service of the Lord. So these two, these 6 elements, we have to gradually practice in our life, so that we will be fully surrendered to the Lord at the end of the life, right? So, okay. So the path of renunciation is recommended for acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. This stage is described also in Bhagavad Gita as Daivi Sampat. No, a human being is required to accumulate Daivi Sampat or spiritual assets. Otherwise, the next alternative is Asuri Sampat or material assets will overcome his disproportionately, overcome him disproportionately, and thus one will be forced into entanglement of different miseries of material world. So here it's mentioned that until unless a person gains such levels of purity, he should never renounce the world and be like a mendicant. That will be kind of a disturbance to the social order. So if a person is qualified enough to be a mendicant, then only he should be a mendicant. Otherwise, he should not be. He should not simply just renounce the worldly this ones and then take up a like a renounced order, and that just simply creates disturbance in the society, because this Hare Krishna, please take care of your muting. This one, I'm sorry. So this okay, so this aspect of, so we were seeing this thing, like without proper qualification we should not become a mendicant, right? So that's this one we were seeing. And a sannyasi should live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The Lord is residing in everyone's heart. Unless one is purified by prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus he will feel the presence of Lord everywhere and will have nothing to fear, such as being without any company. Everyone can become a fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by discharging the prescribed duty of each and every order of life. So purification means what? We will be able to see the presence of Paramatma in us and also everywhere around. And here Prabhupada is mentioning two important qualities. That is, everyone can become fearless. If a person is knowing that the Lord is there with me, he will become fearless, because the most powerful personality of the creation is there with me. So what fear I can have? And then he'll become honest. How he can become honest? Because if he cheats, then the Lord is going to be there and he's going to witness and he's going to punish him for his cheating, right? So in that also, like, somebody is overseeing, so that thing can make a person honest in his approach. Okay. So one can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions and assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord. So the first process of devotional service is hearing, right? So that is very nicely put down here. So one becomes fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions and assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service. So once we hear, then we should act upon those things and we should implement those things in our life, right? Okay, text 6. Evam sachitte svata eva siddha atma priyortho bhagavan anantah tam nivruto niyathartho bhajetha samsara hetu paramamscha yatra. Thus, being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency, because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. So, before this, we saw how to lead a very simple life, very, very simple, humble life, that is led by a renounced person who's dwelling in the forest. And that is not just sufficient. Why he has to do all these things? Why he has to minimize all these things? No, he is not having a lavish lifestyle. So he minimizes all the material time that is required. And how is he going to use that? He's going to fix his attention on the service of the Supreme Lord, and he's going to meditate upon the super soul within the heart, right? That's the thing that is these yogis who are there in the forest, they should be doing this. And for us who are practicing devotional service in the cities, we should also try to do the same thing in our own ways. Now, how to reduce our material necessities and how to increase our attraction or attention to the Supreme Lord. Okay, so let's read the purport. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1861, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the all-pervading, omnipresent Super Soul. Therefore, one who is a yogi can worship only Him because He is the substance and not illusion. No, He is the real substance and not illusion. All other Devi Devata, like no, they are there in this position for some time, and after that they have to give up their positions, and they have to become a human being or a dog or a cat, and whatever their karma pushes them to. So all the Devi Devatas, like they are also living entities like us. By their karma, they have become the controlling departmental in charges of various departments of the world. And if their one manvantara is finished, then all of them have to resign from their positions and then they have to come down. Shine punye mritu lokam vishanti. Right? So they have to shine punya. Once their punya is finished, shin ho jata. So then what has to happen is mrityu lokam vishanti. So they have to come back to the mrityu loka or the or this earthly planetary system. So every living entity, every living creature is engaged in the service of something else. A living being's constitutional position is to render service, but the atmosphere of Maya or illusion or the conditional state of existence, the conditioned soul thinks or seeks the service of illusion. So no, we can actually be happy only if we render service. That's our make. No, we are made for service. And like what kind of service? Service to the Supreme Lord. That is what will completely satisfy us. No, what is that? Savai pumsam parodharma yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So this is when we render service to the Supreme Lord uninterrupted way, so then only we can become fully satisfied and happy, because that is our natural condition. Now we are like fish out of water, and in these illusory ways of trying to attain happiness, we will never attain happiness in this way, right? So that's what is mentioned here, that a living entity should try to act on his original constitutional position of rendering service, and that to rendering service to the Supreme Lord. So now this material conditioning has made us that we are constantly thinking what other person has did for me, what anybody has did for me, and we are trying to seek service from everywhere. So that is a very, very horrible kind of this one, which can never make us happy at any point in time. So we should only be concentrated on what I can offer to people, what I can offer to the Lord, and not think about what Lord has offered me. So that is a very miserable thing. A conditioned soul works in the service of his temporary bodily relatives like the wife and children, and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and bodily relations, such as the house, land, wealth, society, and country. But he does not know that all such renderings of service are totally illusory. As we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, there is an illusion of water, and the foolish animals becomes entrapped by such an illusion and run after water in the desert, although there is no water at all. But because there is no water in the desert, one does not conclude that there is no water at all. The intelligent person knows well that there is certainly water in the seas and oceans, but such vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from the desert. One should therefore search for water in the vicinity of seas and oceans and not in the desert. Every one of us is searching after real happiness, namely eternal life, eternal or unlimited knowledge, and unending blissful life. But foolish people who have no knowledge of the substance search after the reality of this reality of life in illusion. No, this material body does not endure eternally, and everything in relation with this temporary body, such as wife, children, society, and country, also change along with the change of body. This is called samsara, or repetition of birth and death, old age and disease. We would like to find a solution for all these problems of life, but we do not know the way. Now, herein it is suggested that anyone who wants to make an end to these miseries of life, namely the repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must take to this process of worshipping the Supreme Lord and not others, as it is also ultimately suggested in Bhagavad Gita 1865. So if we want at all if we at all want to end the cause of our conditioned life, we must take to the worship of Sri Krishna, who is present in everyone's heart by his natural affection for all living beings who are actually parts and parcels of the Lord. It's okay. So here this aspect, so whenever this comes, like this is more these purports are more oriented towards renounced order, and we will see a complete negativity of like family life, or a like no or basically the family life. So why such a negativity is there in the scriptures? That means nobody should live in family or what? So now here the point to be noted here is that if we are searching for happiness, no, we should not search for happiness in these things. Definitely it is not going to be a like a solution for happiness. No, that we should take it as a permanent fact. So but then, no, should we give it up, and should we give up all this family life and things like that? No, those who have accepted the family life, they should follow the rules and regulations given by the Supreme Lord, how to lead a family life, right? So then it is then that kind of following the family life according to the rules and regulations of the Lord. So then, no, what is the purpose of my family life? Just to execute the rules and regulations of the Lord. And I'm not going to search the happiness over there. So as it is mentioned, no, this is like, this material life is just like a desert. And in desert, there is no possibility of getting any water. Water resources are far, far away. No, where is that resources? It is there in the worship of the Supreme Lord. The family as a unit, no, should try to worship the Supreme Lord and get together and do this worship of the Supreme Lord and keep the Lord in the center. And in that way, no, a person can become happy, not by searching the happiness in the family life. No, how much ever I try to enjoy the family life without the this one of Lord, without the conception of Lord, so then it is not going to be very happy, right? So and this world is a proof. No, you can ask anybody in this world. No, you can just dig out a little bit, and then you can if you become very close to them and then ask them, like, no, what are the problems are there in your life? Everybody will have a list of things, no, that they are going through, no, problematic. So this world can never be a happy place for ordinary living beings. No, why? Because they don't have the consciousness of serving the Supreme Lord. So they are fish out of water. Fish out of water. How it can be happy? No, we can bet and say that, no, this world is Dukkhalayam. Everyone is having some or other problem in the world, right? So that's a given fact. So we should not try to search happiness in a wrong place. No, no, and at the same time, we have accepted the duty of being a family man. So we should continue that duty, and as advised by the Lord, and not whimsically, and not trying to search for happiness there. We have to search for happiness in the devotional service of the Lord, and there we are sure to get it. And if we search for happiness in the material world, we can just do permutation and combination, so many different combinations of enjoyment, but it is not going to work out. Maybe it'll appear like, no, good, what is it? Um, there is some saying in the Tamil language. So it is mentioned that new slipper and new family life, no, will bite after some time, or something like that. I don't know, something of that sort. I don't remember exactly. So basically, like no, this is definitely in the material world. Any combination, permutation and combination, we will never become happy. No, that's a fact of this world, right? So at the same time, it is not discouraged to be a family man. So we should just do it as a duty and as directed by the Supreme Lord, right? So that's the way we should lead. So the baby in the lap of his mother is naturally attached to the mother, and the mother is attached to the child. But when the child grows up and becomes overwhelmed by circumstance, he gradually becomes detached from the mother. Although the mother always expects some sort of service from the grown up child and is equally affectionate towards her child, even though the child is forgetful. Similarly, because we are part and parcel of the Lord is always affectionate to us, and he always tries to get us back home, back to Godhead. But we, the conditioned souls, do not care for him and run instead after the illusory bodily connections. We must therefore extricate ourselves from all illusory connections of the world and seek reunion with the Lord, trying to render service unto him, because he is the ultimate truth. So whenever it comes this aspect of attachment to the family. So we should just think one aspect. Krishna mentions that aham bija pradapita, I am the seed giving father of all the living entities. He is our father, life after life, in so many this ones. And then like in one place, Lord Krishna says, Pitahamasya Mata, like Mata Data and things like that and all. So I have like the Lord is a seed-giving father. So that means he impregnated the living entities into the material nature. In that way, he is the father. And mother, what does the mother do? The mother gives shape or the body to the child. And it's the Lord who gives the shape and body to us. The material elements are his energy, and he uses his energy to give us the body. And then Data, he's also providing the necessities of all that we want, from the air to food to everything that we want, he's providing to us. And still, we would not consider him as a family member. We would not consider him, we would not consider developing a relationship with the Lord and getting attached to the Lord. We have been getting attached to the different family members in every single lifetime, but somehow this thought never crosses us. That father, that mother, that person who is taking care of me in all the lives, in every single life, why not I develop some relationship with him? He's been eagerly waiting, so that I will turn back towards him. For so many lifetimes, he's been patient, and he's been waiting. Someday this guy will turn back to me, and someday he will love me, and he will get back to the spiritual world and things like that. So the Supreme Lord is eagerly waiting like that, but somehow or other we don't give any attention to the Lord's waiting in that way. So it is whenever we think of our family attachment, we should just simply think that, like, what am I doing? What kind of happiness I'm giving to the Lord? He is my father, he is my mother, he is my maintainer, he's everything. But then what have I done to him? Have I given him the joy of family relationship to the Lord? Have I any time like thought of him in that way, like he is my intimate relative? He's the one who's protecting and taking care of me all the time. So why not I think in that way? Like, how many more lifetimes it will take for me to think in that way, like to have a favorable thought towards the Lord, right? So this is something that we have to ponder upon, right? Okay, let's continue the purport. Actually, we are hankering after him as the child seeks the mother. And to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we did not go anywhere else, because the Lord is within our hearts. This does not suggest, however, that we should not go to the places of worship, namely temples, churches, and mosques. Such holy places of worship are also occupied by the Lord, because the Lord is omnipresent. For the common man, these holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. When the temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently, the mass of people gradually become godless, and a godless civilization is the result. And such a hellish civilization artificially increases the conditions of life, and existence becomes intolerable for everyone. The foolish leaders of godless civilization try to devise various plans to bring about peace and prosperity in the godless world under the patent trademark of materialism. And because such attempts are illusory only, the people elect incompetent, blind leaders one after another, who are incapable of offering solutions. Right? If we want at all to end this anomaly of a godless civilization, we must follow the principles of revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the instructions of a person like Shukadeva Goswami, who has no attraction for material gain. Right? So text 7, Kastam Tvanadritya Paranuchintam Rithe Pashun Asathim Namakuryat Pashan Janam Patitam Vaitaranyam Swakarmajam Pratiphan like Parithapan Jusanam. Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as consequence of acquiring the results of their own work. Right? So it's a very strong statement that is mentioned. In the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attached to demigods to the exclusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like animals who follow the herdsman, even though they are taken to the slaughterhouse. The materialists, like animals, also do not know how they are being misdirected by neglecting the transcendental touch of the Supreme Person. No one can remain vacant of thought. It is said that an idle brain is a devil's workshop, because a person who cannot think in the right way must think of something which may bring about disaster. The materialists are always worshipping some minor demigods, although this is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 7:20. As long as person in illusion is illusioned by material gains, he petitions the respective demigod to draw some particular benefit, which is after all illusory and non-permanent. The enlightened transcendentalist is not captivated by such illusory things. Therefore, he is always absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme in different stages of realization, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In the previous verse, it is suggested that one should think of the super soul, which is one step higher than impersonal thought of Brahman, as it was suggested in the case of contemplating the Virata Rupa of the personality of Godhead. So now, progressive stages of meditation is going on. So now Virata Rupa, so that was described in the first chapter, and now it is advised about the meditation on the super soul within the heart. Now that's the process that we are studying now, right? So intelligent persons who can see properly may look into the general condition of living entities who are wandering in the cycle of 84 lakh species of life, as well as in different classes of human beings. It is said that there is an everlasting belt of water called the river Vaitarini at the entrance of plutonic planet of Yamaraj, who punishes sinners in different manners. After being subjected to such sufferings, a sinner is awarded a particular species of life according to his deeds in the past. Such living entities are punished by Yamaraj, are seen in different varieties of conditioned life. Some of them are in the heaven, some of them are in the hell, some of them, okay, please keep your mics muted. Okay, some of them are brahmanas, some of them are ministers. Misers. But no one is happy in the material world, and all of them are either class A, class B, or class C prisoners, suffering because of their own deeds. The Lord is impartial to all circumstances of the sufferings of the living entities, but to one who takes shelter at his lotus feet, the Lord gives proper protection, and he takes such living entity back home, back to himself. Right? So we should understand the frailty of this world. This world is like a jail, and different kinds of punishments are meted out here. For the very reason that everything that exists is God's property, and ideally everything should be used in His service. And otherwise, we are just increasing the term of punishment in this material world. Right? Text 8. Kechit swadhed dehantar hridayava kashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kancharathanga shankha gadadaram dharanaya smaranti. Okay, so here nice description of the form of the Lord is given. So this is this is the form of the Lord that is described, who's there in the heart, and we should actually meditate upon the form of the Lord. So this is a process of Ashtanga Yoga anyways. We are meditating on the sound vibration of Hare Krishna mantra. Anyways, this is very purifying to hear. Let's go through this. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of heart and measuring only 8 inches. 8 inches based on our calculation, right? So with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, and a conch shell and a club respectively, right? So the all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord described in this verse, with distribution of different symbols, beginning from the lower hand, lower hand up and down, and then the lower hand with beginning from lower right hand up and down to the and down to the lower hand with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club respectively, right? So it goes in the sequence of lower right hand, right? So lower right hand, so that is there, and then up and down to the lower left hand with what is lotus wheel, sorry, lotus wheel of a chariot, conchal and club respectively. So these are all the symbols of Vishnu. Is called Janardana. So this particular combination. So where is the lotus, wheel, club, and all these things, all this paraphernalia? According to that, the Vishnu has a different name. So this particular combination, what is mentioned here, so that the combination, the Vishnu is called as Janardana, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass of people. There are many other forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols of lotus, conchal, etc. And they are differently known as Purushottama, Achyuta, Narsimha, Trivikrama, Rishikesha, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Adokshaja, and Upendra. So these 24 forms of localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of planetary system, and in each system there is an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky. So now these personalities, these based on their position of the the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, so they are called by different names, and each one of them have different, they reside in one of the Vaikuntha planets, in the Paravyoma, or in the spiritual sky. So we are there in the material sky. In the spiritual sky, there are planets which are called Vaikuntha, and there each one of these deities are the predominating deities of one of the Vaikuntha planets. There are many other hundreds and scores of different forms of the Lord. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam. So the Lord has many, many wonderful forms. Hundreds and thousands of forms are there. And each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. So this material sky is nothing but a corner of the spiritual sky. That's all. The Lord exists as Purusha, or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world. No, the Lord is called as Purusha. He is the only male existing in the whole creation, and rest everybody are called as female, or Prakriti, or energy of the Lord. So Prakriti is meant for enjoyment of the Purusha, and he is the only Purusha of the whole creation. So Vishnu is the only Purusha of the whole creation. But all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. Advaitam Achyutam Nom Anadimananta Rupam. So Adyam Purana Purusham. No, he is the Purana Purusha. He is the oldest personality. But then Nava Yavvanam cha. Yavvanam means like youthful. Like he is always very, very youthful. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated as described below. So the Lord should be meditated upon like as a very fresh youth. How he'll be. Especially it is mentioned 16 years old boy. No, that's the form that the Lord has, right? Okay. I think if the internet would have gone, we will try to connect back. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Sorry, the current had actually gone. So